Hello everybody, and welcome to this short little vignette kind of thing, in which I'm going to read the backstory, and the story of how Macho Woman Randy Savage became friends with the Emperor, and why the Emperor chose Macho Woman Randy Savage to go on this important quest for him. So let's check it out. You have vague memories of living in a city with a young woman and man, but for most of your childhood you lived in a small home on the edge of a densely forested area. There, the elderly man that you called grandfather performed his duties as the unofficial warden of the forest, and also sheriff of the nearby area. Your supposed grandfather was really much too old for that to be his true relationship to you, but he did care for you with a tenderness that was at odds with his otherwise gruff exterior. Your early years are recalled as an endless stream of days spent out of doors, wearing only loose clothing for the simple robe that your grandfather favored. He taught you about blunt weaponry and how to fight dirty and speak somewhat with nymphs. And when there were no warding duties for him to perform, there was always weapons practice. Your grandfather had mastered an incredible variety of weaponry and insisted that you become familiar with each one. He was often required to deal with some forest predator that had been causing local problems, or with bands of brigands passing through the area, and you were proud whenever you were able to help. It was just such an outlaw band that caused the combat wound that was ultimately fatal to your grandfather. You and he were able to return to his home, and at first he tried to act as if this was just another scratch to be allowed to naturally heal, but finally even he faced the inevitability of his age and accumulated injuries, and he gave you careful instructions concerning the disposition of his possessions. He also told you to go to a temple being run by an old friend of his to continue your growth and sustain your blunt weaponry training and allow you to continue methods to make any blow a fatal one. A few days later, your grandfather died with the quiet dignity that he had always displayed. You were distraught at the loss of the only friend and family that you had ever had, but packed your few belongings and traveled to the temple, honoring your grandfather's request. Taktar Mahrabi, the chief priestess of the temple, was an older woman, but she was much younger than your grandfather had been. You shared your sorrow with her for your recent loss. Then you agreed with her that, besides general training in club fighting and similar studies, you would ignore the set of courses dealing with armor and shields. To pay for your training, you used your forestry skills to provide a regular supply of fresh meat for the temple's larder. Some years later, on a day that seemed like any other, you had just returned from collecting game for the food supply when the chief priestess came to see you. She told you that she received a message that an imperial coach was ambushed at a location close to the temple, and that important people and material needed to be recovered. You allowed yourself an hour to perform your grandfather's favorite meditation exercises, and left on this new mission, both refreshed and with some insight concerning where to search for the robbers. Your meditations bore fruit at dusk as you stealthily approached an encampment approximately where you had expected it to be. Throughout the night you gradually stalked and subdued the camp guard, but then you had to kill all of the other outlaws because they resisted capture. You were abashed to return to the temple shortly after breakfast with only one captive, a maidservant, and a mundane chest of government documents. However, when the imperial representative arrived to claim your results, she sought you out to congratulate you on a most successful mission, although you never knew for certain whether the maidservant or some of the documents somehow had importance. You were not surprised when you later received a most interesting letter from the imperial palace, simply inviting you to the palace on urgent business. You left the temple immediately for the imperial city. So there you go. That's my backstory. I grew up in a small little town with a pedophile, maybe, probably, that I called grandfather, and there you go. There you go. I'll scroll back through it. So if you want to pause and read it yourself, then you can do that. But yeah, so I grew up with a guy called grandfather, and I then went to a temple, and an Imperial coach passed by and was destroyed, and I rescued some of the stuff in it. So there you go. That's my backstory. That is how Macho Woman Randy Savage, this guy right here, this is how Macho Woman Randy Savage came to be the Emperor's close personal friend. Okay, well, that's all for this part. That's all that this part was. Obviously, you didn't have to watch it, because I'll put in the title that it's just the backstory. But if you did watch it, then there you go. So I don't know. I guess thank you for watching, and have a good day.